this tournament.
So this time around, Harry's world is whiter, bigger, darker, and he's got raging hormones to boot.
Yes, and that's probably why it's darker as a world. But also, you know, there's Voldemort, which is a problem for anyone to have to deal with in their teens, really.
You probably didn't like having to deal with the dragons either. That's
No, that wasn't. It was the flamethrower thing was kind of cool, just because there was fire, which is always interesting. But the falling down a roof, that wasn't so much fun, because it was sort of free falling really for about. Apparently, it was 60 feet in 2 seconds or something like that. It was, is how fast it was, which is insane, and I can't believe I lived through it, but I did.
one of the other things you had to do to learn to prepare for the role was you had to scuba dive.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was pretty hard because I'd never done it before, and it just took place in this huge tank. It was about 30 feet deep or something. It was really terrifying.
Well, when I was learning in this little bathtub, basically, there was this tiny little practice pool, and then the first time I went in the big tank where I was shooting was the first day of shooting. And so I went in, and that was without all the scuba stuff, and so they show you this like 60-foot deep tank or something, and you're like, yeah, just go in. You have to swim down to the bottom with nothing, and like you can't see anything. It's like, oh.
I'd never scuba dived before, but it was great. It's what's great about shooting movies is that every time you learn different things. It was great. I mean, a bit scary at first because I'm just scared of everything new, basically, and then I really started to enjoy it.
The very first time I went underwater, I was breathing really heavily, and when you do that underwater, you sort of start getting dizzy, and when I went out of the water, I just fell back in straight away.
What about the maze? Because that was also a little bit scary in real life, trying to shoot that. I mean, that could actually hurt you as well.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times when you're sort of running through the maze, and because it could close in on you, and just sort of, you'd hear practices when you'd just hear people screaming, and they'd be like, stop! And then they go, okay, it's ready. And you sort of walk in, and yeah.
It's always a bit scary at first because you don't know how to do it properly, and once you start not panicking about it and taking it as in the coolest way you can, it becomes real fun.
It's so real that you actually start to fear what you're doing. You sort of you're running for the cup. When we have to run, you're not running, you're sprinting the fastest you can. So
the way Mike Newell's changed it from the book, but there are no creatures or anything in the maze. Yeah, I think the isolation element which he introduced to it, that sort of the competitors, just the fear of the dark and of being alone and stuff, just the fact that there are these huge maze walls and there's no one around, you're just sort of running around, it's really claustrophobic and really confusing and stuff. Yeah, I think that really helped, and I think everyone, like when I was running around with Harry at the end, that we were really sort of hitting each other, because and everyone had loads of cuts and bruises all over them from those maze walls.